Today we dive into one of the most compelling theories ever proposed, that Atlantis once stood tall above the waters of the Atlantic Ocean, right at the heart of the Azores Plateau. We begin, as always, with the source. The story of Atlantis comes from two dialogues written by the Greek philosopher Plato, Timaeus and Critias. In these texts, Atlantis is described as a powerful maritime empire located beyond the Pillars of Heracles, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. It was said to be larger than Libya and Asia combined, and from it, sailors could travel to other islands and eventually reach a vast continent on the far side of the ocean. That continent, today we call the Americas. According to Plato, the source of this story was Solon, a respected Greek lawmaker and his own ancestor. During his travels in Egypt, Solon visited the city of Sais and spoke with temple priests, who shared with him a preserved record of Atlantis. They told him of a great war between ancient Athens and Atlantis, of a time when the Atlantic was navigable, and a powerful empire sought to dominate the lands within the Mediterranean. The priests even gave a date for Atlantis' destruction, 9,000 years before Solon's time, placing the cataclysm around 11,600 years ago. That number is not random. It aligns precisely with the end of the Younger Dryas, a mysterious and abrupt cold period that marked the final phase of the last ice age. At the end of this era, something extraordinary happened. Global temperatures spiked, ice sheets collapsed, oceans surged, sea levels rose rapidly. This is what scientists now call Meltwater Pulse 1b. A dramatic flood event that would have swallowed entire coastlines. And it just so happens to coincide with the very date Plato gave for the fall of Atlantis. It's also the era when Göbekli Tepe was built in what is now southeastern Turkey. Often cited as the world's oldest known temple complex, Göbekli Tepe is filled with megalithic pillars, intricate carvings, and symbols that appear to encode sophisticated astronomical knowledge. Pillar 43, in particular, seems to track solstices and celestial alignments dating back to roughly 10,950 BCE. According to researcher Martin Sweatman, the builders may have understood the Great Year, the 26,000-year precessional cycle of the Earth. This suggests that at the end of the last ice age, advanced civilizations, or at the very least advanced survivors, still walked the Earth. Now let's turn our attention west, far out into the Atlantic. The Azores Plateau is a vast triangular stretch of underwater land covering nearly 400,000 square kilometers, almost twice the size of Great Britain. Today, its highest points rise above the waves as the modern Azores Islands. But bathymetric maps reveal more: level plains, steep-sided seamounts, and terrain that looks eerily familiar. Geographically, the Azores Plateau lies directly beyond the Pillars of Heracles in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, exactly where Plato said Atlantis once existed. This plateau isn't just large, it's unusual. It sits on the Azores Triple Junction, where the North American, Eurasian, and African tectonic plates diverge. The region is also home to the Azores Hotspot, a powerful mantle plume believed to be about 200 kilometers wide. For a period of roughly 13 million years, from 20 to 7 million years ago, this hotspot produced continental-type crust that's rare in mid-ocean regions. Even more intriguing, the Azores Plateau hasn't drifted far. Unlike most plates that move over hotspots, this one appears to have remained mostly stationary, sitting right above its source. Since the end of the last ice age, global sea levels have risen by around 130 meters. But that rise hasn't been evenly distributed. Through a process called Isostasy, the Earth's crust bends under the weight of shifting water and ice. As glaciers melted, continents rebounded, but ocean floors may have sunk. This top loading of the oceans would have contributed to the subsidence of mid-oceanic features, like the Azores. But there's more. The plume beneath the Azores doesn't just cause vertical shifts from above, it creates pressure from below. When active, it lifts the crust through upwelling magma and thickening. When it wanes, that support fades. This is called bottom-loading isostasy. And if the plume was already in a period of low activity 11,600 years ago, the timing becomes even more provocative. Some geologists suggest that crustal thickness in this area may have doubled or tripled during past plume surges, reaching up to 16 kilometers thick. The crust, acting like a living hinge, could flex upward during active periods and slowly collapse during dormant ones. Present-day studies suggest the Azores plume may now be in decline, just as it may have been millennia ago. Could rapid subsidence have occurred? Possibly. Some theories suggest that cometary impacts at the end of the Younger Dryas disrupted the pressure balance below the crust. Others point to a slow loss of structural support, followed by a sudden collapse triggered by tectonic shocks. Randall Carlson's research on core samples from the mid-Atlantic ridge shows signs of vertical displacement up to 5,500 meters, far beyond the typical range of sea level rise. Amid all this, a specific site has drawn attention. Located right near the center of the Azores Plateau lies a level plain and a series of faint ring-like features. Using Plato's unit of measurement, the stadion, which ranged between 185 and 192 meters, the outer ring of Atlantis should be just under 5 kilometers across. When measured, this site comes in at 4.996 kilometers, within a meter of Plato's description. The second ring, almost identical. Even traces of the innermost ring appear in 3D bathymetric models. To the southwest lies the Buri Hole, an underwater depression about 700 meters deeper than the central site. Could this be the inland sea Plato described? Of course, after 10,000 years underwater, amid landslides, seismic shifts, and sediment accumulation, it's no surprise that the structure would be buried in mud. Plato himself wrote that Atlantis had become swallowed by mud and was impassable. On Pico Island, one of the Azores, a step pyramid tilts at a noticeable angle. It's one of about 140 similar structures across the islands. Though far younger than Atlantis and likely unrelated, the angle of this pyramid hints at subsidence across the region. The land itself may be shifting. So what are we left with? A lost city described in antiquity, a geological hotspot with unique features, a timeline that matches perfectly with one of Earth's greatest cataclysms, and a site that ring by ring, meter by meter, aligns with the measurements handed down for millennia. Perhaps this isn't definitive proof, but maybe it's a forgotten memory, a fragment of truth, submerged beneath the Atlantic. If you found this journey fascinating, subscribe to Awakened Epochs for more.